I'm Carrie Karen, founder of Stamp Crafting Masters and an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the desert southwest of the United States. Welcome to this creative experience where inspiration, practical techniques, and projects with purpose come together. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your creative time with me today. During today's creative experience, we're creating a card featuring the Stampin' Up! Delicate Dreams Suite. And I'm calling it All Tied Up in Knots. Now, let's create. Let's go through the pieces. The first thing that you're going to need is a piece of the Designer Series Specialty paper. And this is the one that I used in all three of my cards for this event. And what I did is I cut off 3 inches and I fussy cut or die cut the images out of this paper. I cut everything out from the full flowers, the little flowers, and even the things that were up against the edge. Today I'm going to show you how I used some of those pieces that were just up on the edge, like this little blue flower or this little brown flower. So that's how we'll be using this. I recommend that if you haven't already, go ahead and cut like 3 inches off and use those pieces throughout the remainder of the event. Additionally, on this card, this is optional, but I'm also using the Designer Series, Delicate Designers, let's try that one more time, Delicate Designs Specialty Designer Series paper. And as you can see, I've kind of cut out some of the things that I was going to use. Again, we're not using all of this for this project, but I tend to cut around and then I die cut or fussy cut the items that I am going to be using. And I keep it on the side as ephemera. All right, let's go through the actual pieces. These are all the pieces that I'm planning on using in today's demonstration. And got a couple of extra pieces in here too. So I've got that little blue flower. I've also got, this is the one I was telling you about off of the Delicate Designs paper. We're also going to have pre-cut this die out of the Delicate Whispers bundle. And this is from the Delicate Bundles die set. The stamps that we'll be using today are going to be the Delicate Whispers stamp set. Some of the other ones that we're going to be, little ephemera we're going to be using are more of the little brown ones. So I just cut out a few, and then I picked and chose what I wanted to use for this particular card. All right, I'm going to set those up and out of the way. I don't want to lose any pieces because we had fun with that during one of these other cards. Don't need to recreate that. Alrighty, the next thing that we are going to need is our white card base. Additionally, we're going to have a little sentiment piece and a layer piece. And then we are going to need more of the Delicate Dreams Designer Specialty paper. I'm never going to get that right. That is way too much of a mouthful. In any case, we have 1, 2, 3 pieces of this. And if you want to see the back, that's what the back looks like. We are going to be flipping them over. And then this little piece, which is going to be the background. We also need 2 pieces of this. We're going to be using one this way and one this way. We are using crumb cake. In this case, I chose to use the crumb cake 12x12 two-tone. So one side is lighter, the other side is darker. I'm only going to be using the dark side, which is the one that matches the regular crumb cake paper. So we're good there. And then I have the Hydrangea Hue paper, and that's going to be our card base. And of course, then we have some ribbon. All right, now I would show you the finished card, except that when I originally created this project, I came up and I was going to use this as the final product. And then I got to thinking, this is too boring. It just opens up and it's a regular card. So I adapted it and I made something a lot more exciting. But I'm going to leave that over here just as a reference because we're still going to use that as the front of our card. So before we get started on assembly, I'm going to move these out of the way. And hopefully they aren't going to get lost. Hopefully I'll put them in a place I'll be able to grab them quickly, right? Okay. We also needed the ribbon. We need about, well, you just cut off what you need. Okay, this is my card base. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that it is scored in the right locations. And so I'm going to make sure my cutting blade is out of the way and I'm going to score. And then I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to score again. I shared in another video how I love to use the paper trimmer as a guide for folding my card to ensure that I always get a straight edge. And so I've taken the liberty of doing that ahead of time. So I'm not going to describe that again, but what I would do is I would put my paper down into the corner, fold it this way, straight edge. It keeps this line nice and tight. It keeps a nice straight edge that way. Then I would flip it over and do it this way. Fold it over and use your bone folder to get it that way. Then what I did with this page is I did it opposite direction as well. So I'm really creasing these edges in both directions. You really want to break down those fibers because our card is going to fold all kinds of different ways, which is going to be kind of fun. So I can see this one's not quite as steady. All right. So now we start the assembly. One of the first things that I like to do, because sometimes I forget after I get putting everything together, I start getting really super excited about my card base and I forget to put my ribbon onto the card base. So this is in fact the card base. And I just used a piece of tear and tape and I put it down, leaving room on the edges. I did not go all the way to the edges. I went from about here to here. Put down your tape, put down your ribbon nice and flat. And you want to put the wrong side up so that when you tie your ribbon, if it has a right and wrong side, as it wraps around your card, you're going to get this beautiful ribbon showing. So ultimately what's going to happen, this is the card base. This is the main part of the card, and it is going to be folded in such a way that this backside panel gets glued onto here. So you have a choice of how you want your card to open. So I am choosing to have my card, so I'm going to eventually glue that down. I'm going to have my card open like this and then like this. Now I've seen this card and have created cards like this before where you do a Z fold, and a Z fold just means it looks like a Z after it's folded. And so then this would be the front of your card and it would open like this. It's your choice and you get to design these and put these together in any way that you want to. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an idea of what this will look like. This will be somewhat similar to the front. And then on the inside, we are going to place this piece here, and this piece here, and then we're going to decorate this one a little bit. Just such beautiful paper, beautiful paper. It's got this great shimmer to it. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but it's bronze foiled. And on this one, the centers of the flowers and the little sprigs are the foil. It's just gorgeous. And then as our card continues to open, we are going to have another piece of the hydrangea hue over here. And we're going to stamp and decorate this as well. So you can see this will be the area where you're going to leave your note and write your message. And this will fold in like this. That will be on there. And then it will fold and look like that. All right, so let's get to the assembly. The first thing I'm going to do is show you the stamps. We're going to be using, like I said, the Delicate Whispers stamps. These are the 3 stamps we're going to be using. We have Hello Friend. That one's going to go on the front. And then these 2 beautiful detail stamps are going to go on the inside on the solid blue. And we're going to stamp in Secret C. And let's show you what that would look like. I'm going to review again how I pick up stamps. The very first thing I'm going to do is use one of my bigger blocks, and I'm going to pick up the stamp. I have the part that picks up the ink facing down. I'm using my silicone craft sheet, and I'm just letting my dies, I'm just letting the stamps rest a little bit so that they kind of go back to their regular shape. And then I simply press down. I don't worry about getting it straight on the block because I don't use the block to align where I'm going to stamp. I look at what is on the stamp to decide where I'm going to stamp. So to stamp, ooh, I almost dropped that right in my lap. I also like to keep my silicone craft sheet on my desktop, and I like to stamp my items right on it. So I've got my large, I'm going to move this aside so I don't lose it. I've got my large stamp, and I am going to be stamping on this page. Now I have to decide, is there a right way and a wrong way to this paper? I suppose there could be. I don't really see one. So this is a non-directional type of paper. And what I want to do is I'm going to stamp up here and over here and kind of make a little bouquet type of thing. So I think I'm going to leave it with this flower facing this way. Make sure I'm centered in my camera. And then I'm just going to pick up the ink. Again, with the foam pads, you want to pounce. With a felt pad, you would press, tap, twist, tap, and then do your stamping. This is a foam pad, so we only need to pounce. All right, I want this one kind of coming from the top. I'm thinking when I look at this, what I'm imagining is this is a flowering tree that is kind of blowing in the wind. Okay, get that stamped in. And we have a beautiful stamp right there. Okay, off to the side, I'm going to clean off my stamp. And for now, I'm going to close this up, but the other thing we are going to stamp is on this piece, we're going to stamp Hello Friend. I'm going to save time. I've done some of this ahead of time, so I'm going to set that aside, pull in my sheet that is completed, and that's what it looks like. And oh, I guess I am going to stamp that one because I did not stamp that one ahead of time. So let's pull this sieve over, pick up Hello Friend, pounce, pounce, pounce. And that one was kind of heavy-handed on one side and not heavy enough. So what I do is I look at my stamp closely to make sure that it's well covered. And this I'm just going to center and stamp. Okay. All right, we got those done. Clean off that stamp. Close up the pad so we don't make a mess. Alrighty, so now we've got all of our pieces, and I'm going to start actually assembling. So the first thing I wanted to do, obviously, we did it already and we talked about it already, and that was putting our ribbon onto our card base. The ribbon is going to be, there's going to be the back side of the main section that's going to go against this. And the ribbon is going to come around and tie the entire thing shut. Now, if you want your bow to be in the middle, then you want these relatively the same width on both sides. I know when I tie my bows that my right hand side needs to be a little bit longer because I tend to use more on that side when I tie the bow. If you wanted your bow to be over here on the right side of the card instead of in the middle of the card, then you're going to want to make your left side quite a bit longer, and you're going to tie over here and make your bow on the side. This one is going to end up with the bow in the middle. Alrighty. I'm folding my card to see which way it folds the best. One way usually does fold better than the other, so I don't want a whole lot of warpage here. Now you can take your bone folder and really crease it down and kind of hold the edges and just really push it really hard. And this was why we broke down those fibers, so that we would get it to go both directions, so I could make my determination way at the end or as I needed to. So again, I'm having my card open like this. So I want to make sure that my glue goes on this side. I'm going to pull in my glue press. Again, if this is something you don't have and you're interested in it, head over to my Creative Resources section on the Stamp Crafting Masters website, and it will be listed over there. If it's not there, shoot me an email and I will send you the link. It is not a Stampin' Up product, by the way. Okay, so now I'm going to center this. I'm going to make sure I'm looking at this point, I'm looking at the bottom right and the bottom left, and I'm making sure that the amount of card space that is the border is relatively equal around all of them. And then I glance at the top to make sure that the top is covered as well, or is equal. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you're one of those people who has to measure, go ahead and use your pencils and do whatever you need to do. All right, the next card layer that goes on is going to be our crumb cake. Again, I love this because I don't have to use a lot of ink. You can see there's like very little on there. My glue goes a long way. It's wonderful. All right, again, this one has a little tighter of an angle, or a little skinnier border. It's only a 1/16 of an inch versus an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 of an inch. I love the skinny borders. I just think it adds so much to the dimension of what a card looks like. Okay, we're going to set this aside for a moment because we have another piece of ribbon that needs to go in there. And I don't want to forget that. Oh, wait, I have one more layer we can do. let's do this layer here. Okay, so we are going to put glue on the pretty side of the paper. Sometimes a really hard thing to do, but don't worry, you can do it. If you absolutely can't, feel free to go rogue and do whatever you like, because that's the beauty of crafting. You get to do whatever you want to do. I love to see alternatives. I encourage my team members to go outside the box and don't follow exactly what I do. Make it yours. Make it fun. Now, if you like to just follow directions, by all means, feel free. All right, so now we have that layer done. I'm going to pull in my white card and the smallest piece of this, and we are going to adhere this. Again, this is another skinny layer, which I love. I have my upline always gives me a hard time because I love using the 1/16 of an inch, and she's like, but you're wasting all that paper. You don't even get to see any of it, which is true. Sometimes I do feel like that too, but you know, live dangerously. Go with the skinny edge. Most of the time I use just colored cardstock to do to the edge anyway. All right, again, I like to press wherever I had the glue. I try to flatten it and just kind of smooth it out. I don't want ripples. I called it green glue. The Stampin' Up! Multi-purpose glue is really nice in that it doesn't usually clump or do any of that. Okay, so the main reason we did not want to go right onto our card base with this is because we need to pull in our other ribbon, and we're going to tie this around the top of this card. So I decided I liked these facing the bottom. It looked more natural than it falling. So I'm going to have my ribbon come through this area right about here. Now this one, I am not going to, I'm looking at my ribbon to see, so you can see this side of the ribbon does not have, it's kind of the same color, whereas this side of the ribbon is slightly lighter. So I think that the side that has the same color is probably the front side of the ribbon. But if you want it that way, you can do it however you like. All right, so I decided not to tie a bow on this one. I'm just going to tie a square knot. So I was Girl Scout for many, many years. So I do left over right and through. And then I pull it tight, and then I do right over left and through. And what this does is it creates an actual square knot, which means, I think it went upside down. It did. Which means you end up with, spin it, you end up with a very flat knot or square. All right, so going to move that. We're going to leave that just like that. We're going to keep it up here. We're going to leave it loose for now because we want to make sure that we have everything where we need it. So we're going to set that up there for now. We are going to take our next layer, which is our small piece of that matching paper, and we're going to adhere that to the sentiment layer. Attach the sentiment to the sentiment layer. Or attach the sentiment layer to the sentiment layer. Okay, so you can see I had to slide that around a little bit. It wasn't exactly even. And that's the beauty, again, of having the liquid glue. All right, next thing, I need to pull in my dimensionals. I'm going to put a couple dimensionals on the back of here. And I'm not going to have anything near where I'm putting the sentiment on this particular card. So I can go ahead and remove the backs and put it right onto the piece. All right, so I'm going to go off center a little bit. A technique that I use is if I'm going off center, I want this edge to be equal with the border here equal to the border here. And I do kind of like with those little brown things, those little trimmy things coming out. So I might even go just a little bit lower. So we're going to go here. And what I do is I let one side drop and I verify it's exactly where I want it. Then I hold that one and I let the other one drop into place. And I'm notorious for getting it crooked. So if you have a better way of doing it, by all means use it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is flip this over. And we're going to put some dimensionals here and I think in the middle. Because I think our string is going to be, our ribbon, our trim is going to be enough. You do want to be careful. If you have a knot, you don't want to put a dimensional right under where the knot is going to be on the front. And I learned this trick from Rachel Tessman. So when a card is in an envelope and it's going through the mail, you want it as flat as possible. And one dimensional is not a problem to go through the machines. It works really easily, not a problem. When you start stacking your dimensionals or you have an element that's on your card that's above a dimensional, it adds extra height and therefore is more likely to get caught in the machine. So we don't double stack our dimensionals unless it's a card we're hand delivering, and those are sometimes a lot of fun. This one's going to go right there. And see, I kind of push down to see, and I can see my knot is right here, so I have to be kind of careful. I may even go a little to the side just to make sure it kind of goes. All right, and this one actually might end up being right where it's going to attach the ribbon. So I think I will do that. And what I'm going to do is flip it over. And you can see I have a little bit extra here. So I may retie that. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to take off the little tab. And we're going to call this good. And now I can pull this in. Take off the little backies. Sticky backs, non-sticky backs. I don't know what you call those things. All right, now we're going to make sure we're opening our card the correct way. I've had lots of people who would end up this way, and then now your card's really interesting because it would open like that. I've had demonstrators on my team, and myself included, who have accidentally decorated envelopes thinking it was the card. And getting done and having the whole beautiful front of their envelope all decorated. Okay, we've got our dimensionals on there. And I'm going to stand up for this one and make sure I get it even. I'm looking at the top and the bottom to make sure that my edges the border is equal. And I eyeball it and I set it down. Okay. Now, this is nice. I like that. I think I'll leave it. Okay, so now you can see that the card is attached. It doesn't fall off anymore. And now, when we're finished with the inside of the card, we're going to tie it up. We're just going to make a quick bow just to show you what it's going to look like. Oops, there we go. And we have our tied up and knot. Okay, so we're going to open it up and we're going to decorate. This side here is going to be our other piece of this beautiful designer series paper. Just calling it DSP or just calling it designer series paper is easy. Remembering the name and trying to get all of those alliterations and everything in the right order is sometimes crazy. All right, flip that out of the way. Now I'm using this as my paper edge, so I do want this to have equal borders on all sides from the score mark to the edge. So I'm going to put it here. Sometimes I will allow it to go closer to the score line and the fold line than the other edge. Okay, I'm going to close that one up. We're going to put this one on next. I have a feeling my video is going to be going too long. I talked too much during this one. So I'm going to try to speed it up here. Okay, we're going to put that one on. And if you need to make it flat, you can flip it over. So that's another thing to mention. If you were going to stamp something on your inside area that I left open for a note, make sure you do that before you adhere anything to the front of your card. Because right now I would not be able to stamp very well. In fact, I would not even attempt that because I'm sure to mess it up. All right, the last panel that's going on is the one we stamped here. And got my little flowering tree going nicely. Make sure my edges are kind of straight. So you can see I had it off and I kind of just pulled on with my right hand to get it to go where I really wanted it to go. And fold that down. Okay. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to pull this in. I'm going to get all my pieces out over here. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is decorate this side first. I thought it was just so lovely to have this over here and put a flower over here like that. So, and now what I envision here is when I send it to someone, if I have a little picture that of like my son, maybe I would send it to, you know, grandma or something like that. Of course, I'm aging myself because my son, my youngest, oh my goodness, we're not going there. We're not even going to say. He's an adult. Let's just say that. Okay, now in this case, I am going to use my press and I'm just going to put dots of glue where I need it to be stuck down. And I'm not going to leave any of these up for dimension because I have enough dimension with this card. First of all, because it's a tri-fold, and second of all, because I do already have some dimension with dimensionals on the front. So I just kind of hold that to where I want to put it, press it down in place. Actually, I'm going to move this out of the way. And I would not put any dimensionals or any kind of extra adornment on the inside of this particular card, again, because of the bulk of the card. All right, now I got to decide which way do I want my flower. I think I like him this way. What I really liked about this card too was that, and I was thinking about this after I made my first card of this, and because I got a thank you card from somebody, and what they had done is they had received a card from somebody, and the person, let's just use this card as an example. They had this card, and they got this card from somebody. The person who sent it to them wrote in here. When they got the card, they cut it with a paper trimmer here. The front of the card was still beautiful, and they used this side of the card after it was cut as a postcard, but they put the postcard in an envelope. So they just had a single card base with a beautiful front and a little thank you. I thought it was brilliant. I was so impressed. I know, small things in life, right? But what I thought about this card is this would be a really cool card to give to somebody that you did not sign and say, here's some creative ways that you can use this card to send to other people. And you can do that by cutting it up. So like this card could be a card front, and you could write your message on this side. This one could be the front, and this side could be the side you write on. This one could be the front, you could tie it, and then you could write on the back. So there's all kinds of things that you could do with this card. And I just thought, what a fun thing to gift somebody. You know, just kind of fun stuff. Okay, so we have that done. The last one we have are these two. So let's do this one first. I just thought this was going to be so pretty. This needed something because this side had some brown. I thought, okay, we need to pull some brown from here over here. And that's where my little cutouts come into play. So here's a good example of how I cut one of them out. Sometimes I leave the little flowers on. Sometimes I even go so far as to cut those little flowers, but that gets really tedious. So I'm going to just glue these down. And I just thought it just added such a great thing. Now when I'm using this on top of DSP, and it's a white, and I'm putting it onto next to something that's white, I usually only go to the edge of the DSP. And I'll show you what I'm talking about with that in just a minute, because, okay, I think I want that one up there. And I'm trying to make this look like it's part of the branch. And I don't know, you can do whatever you want. What's in my mind is crazy. So I don't know that you want to ever know what's in Carrie's mind, but it is what it is. Okay, so now I have a good triangle of 3s, but I kind of don't like the gray flower, so I'm going to cover it up with brown, another brown one. I mean, there's another gray flower in the other. There's a gray flower over here. Maybe I'll just, I don't know. Yeah, we'll cover it up. Cover it up a little bit. And then, let's see, what else could we put in here? Oh, I had originally had some bows up here too, and I thought, you know, that might work, but no, we're not going to, because what I found was when I had the bows in this corner, it didn't fold flat. So, oh, I know what I wanted to show y'all. So now I've got these 2 little flowers here that are cut off at the edge. And now I still have more brown over here than over here. So I'm going to pull the brown. I'm going to put this right up on the edge, and it's white on right up to the edge. So I'm going to go right to the edge. And then this one I'm going to put over here. And now what happens is I have my triangle over here. And now I've created a triangle with this flower, and this flower, which opens it up to bring you over to the pretty paper over here, as well as your message that's going to be over in the center. The philosophy of Carrie's design. Again, scary, I know. Take with it what will work, leave the rest behind. All right. So we're just about done with this. I do have a couple of extra little pieces left. And that is our card. So it folds up like this, and we can tie it shut. And if this is too loose, you can tack it into place with some what do you call those things? Mini glue dots. Yes, in fact, I think I will do that. Let's take a mini glue dot. So I pull it up. I leave it flat when I'm using ribbon or trim. And I'm going to pull it up a little bit. I think I want my knot right there. So let's move this up. See how that knot is right by the little leaves, and I'm like, that kind of looks like a little flower. I think we'll go with that. All right, last one. I'm going to pull it tight. I'm okay with it going off the edge, not a problem. I could retie it. That's too much work. This is good enough. So now I'm going to tie my bow. And I wish I had a better way to teach you how to tie a bow, but I tie bows like I tie bows when I'm tying my shoes. And if the knot goes the wrong way, or if my bow ends up upside down. Okay, so this is a bow that ended up crooked. I don't like crooked bows. So that means I need to adjust where I'm going with my knot. So I'm going to go this way. Now this time I'm going to come around this way instead of the way I did it the first time, because now my bow will be straight. And there's the card. Isn't that pretty? I just think this is the greatest little card. All right, well, thank you guys for spending this crafting time with me today. I truly do hope that you'll continue to creatively connect with your faith, family, and friends. Until next time, keep creating, keep connecting. God bless.